Hi guys, it's me, Carrie Silver Lining Manna. I'll probably say that 5 different times in this video because this is another one of those in which I slap together a bunch of different clips. And I have recorded pieces of this thing over and over again. I just don't want to keep doing that. So instead of redoing and putting in what I left out, starting over, I'm just slapping it at the front in my intro here. And this is my intro, but I have retired Sarah's clapboard. It was cute, but I'm just done. I'm moving on. I'm going to get new decorations for my walls. I already have them. I just got to hang them up. Silver Linings is getting revamped. I'm actually at the very, very end of my twin flame shit. So I have a couple more things to talk about, to share about with that, and then I'm moving on to something else. So what I forgot to say in this video, and I'm sorry that it comes out of order, I just don't know how else to do it without redoing the whole fucking thing, and I'm not doing that. I wanted to talk about, this video is going to talk about how my new guide fucked shit up. I want to talk about that too, because he told me that if he just didn't realize that I would go in the direction I went in. And that confuses me because a few weeks ago, I talked to Volty on Stardust, and Voltaire said, I'm going to have you on my show in next month, and we're going to talk about blah, blah. He said, I know, we've already done the show because there's no time on that side. And he goes, and your viewers are going to walk away with more questions than they had going in, which is, the nature of the beast, right? But that got me thinking, if Voltaire knows that I'm going to, that we've already had this interview in the future and he already knows the outcome of it, how is it that my new guide did not foresee the reaction I would have to the information he was giving me? So maybe that's one of the things that Voltaire is going to confuse us with, because that just does not make sense. If Voltaire can know it, why can't Pierre? I'm very confused about that. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, well, I kind of spoke in this thing, what Pierre wanted me to learn. I'm going to introduce you to Pierre soon. What Pierre wanted me to learn was how to experience something in a new way. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is how stuck we are in our old ways and how difficult it is we don't even realize that we can step out of the box we're into. So if you don't realize it, it's very hard to get out of it. I think that's what's next for those of us at the same kind of start line that we went on. I have many people that started their journey the same time I did, and we seem to be in almost the same place. So any of you that are like kind of in my same place, and you'll know who you are because you're watching this and you're ready to move forward, we're going to really be challenged with new. And I don't really know what that means. New way of manifesting, new ways to create, new ways to just view the world and how to, create our own existence. I don't know. I'm kind of excited to learn about that stuff because I kind of feel like, I've been in a place of reacting to situations in my life rather than creating situations in my life. I've spent the last 6 years undoing the damage that accumulated over my lifetime. So I'm starting from scratch. That's what Pierre says. I like that. I'm going to start over, but I'm getting ready to get equipped with new tools, and so are you. So stick around because this place is going to get interesting. So one of the things that I'm starting to do too is live through my own, following my heart, following my gut. And that's still so new to me because I don't hear like say Hermione would. I don't hear the way she does. So I trust the words that she gets from somebody else. I got to learn how to trust myself, and I got to learn in which ways to follow my gut. Because like I said, I don't hear. And I kind of had some experience with that a little bit with this, you'll find out in this video. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is, I can't believe I forgot this part, but this is so important. If you are on a twin flame relationship kind of growth path, and this probably works out into every situation. When you have these people in your life, situations in your life that serve as triggers to help you grow, one of the things I've noticed, at least in my own journey, but I could see how it kind of happened with my mama issues. because I had like a surrogate mama to help me heal from my mama past. I've spoke about this before. And what I realized is that the things that happen between us, I have one perception of it and she has another perception of it. And they're not the same perception. It's because I got what out of it what I needed. The filter that I had was the filter I needed. So when it comes to these twin relationships, what I realized, and I'm going to talk about how my first one was with Michael, how completely fabricated it was. It was completely made up. There was no real relationship. And I knew it. And that was part of the frustration. I kept trying to let him go. I felt like the entire experience was me trying to break up with him. I could not let him go. I didn't want to be tethered to somebody that wasn't interested in me. I didn't want to love somebody that didn't love me back. I knew it was for my growth and my evolution. And so, and fairy girl just finally said, just go with it. This is for your growth. Fantasize away. This is what you need. So when the second twin came around and it felt very real, it wasn't as made up. It came from something real. There was a real interest. There was a real friendship. It was based on reality at the beginning. But what I didn't realize is that as time went on and the same things kept happening as they did with Michael, I started to create it the same way. But the creations I was making they could have been realities. I mentioned that and later on in this video that I was meant to go on a trip with him, with Twin 2. So in my manifesting, I would look at Airbnb and I would choose places for us to go. And, my fantasies were based on what I believed was reality. So I just didn't get how up in the clouds I was until the end a few weeks ago. And I've been processing. I see, wow, I really did do the same thing. I had a fantasy relationship the first time. And what started off as an actual, friendship and like I keep saying, a little bit of a romance, it truly was, again, based in fantasy. So if you guys are in that place and also when I spoke about I had like a third twin experience, except I was the runner and he was the chaser. In his writings to me, because he did exactly what I did to Michael, exactly. It was like a total role reversal. So I had a lot of compassion for him and what he was going through. And I would encourage him to, it's okay. You can message to me. You can pour your heart all over me. I understand that you need to do this. But some of the messages he would send me, I would see how he was doing the same thing I did in filling in the blanks. I didn't express my reciprocated feelings for him because I didn't have them. But I'm speaking for him in a way, but I'm really speaking from my own experience. So when I say him, I mean me. I guess I'll go ahead and say me. Because I didn't understand what the twins felt for me. I just didn't know. They didn't, there was like not a lot of communication back and forth. So I would just create the relationship. And if there was a post or something online, it's like when you read a horoscope, you can make it fit your life. So I made whatever, minuscule interaction that he and I had, the twins and I had, I would find a way to relate it to me because you get so obsessed with these people. So think, if you are in one of these twin relationships, I want you to kind of think, is it based in reality? Are the thoughts you're having and the creations that you're doing, is that yours? And I want to say this, I want to tell you this, not to like burst bubbles, but I don't know if it will help you in your journey or not to realize how fabricated these relationships are. If you can step out of it and look from the outside in and see, is that real? Is that really happening? Or is it just something that I want to happen, that I've made my reality? Because none of the stuff that, it's trippy. It's just trippy the way you just live in fucking fantasy land. But it's okay to live in fantasy land because you need that place. These men represented my past. So there had to be something to it, even if I had to make it up. My emotions and my feelings were real, but the exact dynamic of the relationship was many times just what I wanted for it to be, and it really wasn't. And then one last thing I wanted to share with you is that that I finally, and my husband, he kind of knows my path. He knows that, we've already established that we're going to have like an open relationship, and he doesn't really want it. So I'm the only one going out opening. And he, I'm sure he wishes it would be otherwise, but he also understands the dynamic of who we are. And he's come to accept who I am and what I need and what my path will be. And he's okay with that. He wants our family to remain a family. And we have a lot of love for each other, but there's not romantic love. There really isn't. He is my family, but he is not my lover. He is not my romantic. There's no intimacy like that. There's not that kind of stuff. So I finally started to tell him more about my relationships. And once I realized that these two boyfriends that I'm going to talk about later, what they really were, I was able to come clean with him. And what I really wanted him to know, I was trying to talk to him about the one I'm crazy about, my twin, my fairy boy. And I was like, this is a guy, and I'm speaking for him. I could be wrong. So fairy boy, if you watch this and I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. But he's a guy that wants a picket fence life. He wants what I have. He wants a wife and 3 kids and that nice house. I've already got that. I've already done that. So when I was saying these things to my husband, he just wasn't connecting. He's like, what? You want, so what you're saying is you're going to go have a life and marry him and have a family with him? And I was like, no, you're missing it entirely. What I'm trying to tell you is that don't ever feel threatened by that, because this is my family. This is my life. This is it right here. I'm never going to replace this with another one. I may have these relationships with other men. I may love them. I may have romance with them. I may have sex with them. I may go on adventures with them. They're going to heal my heart and give me something that I'm not getting here. But what I do have here, I don't want with anybody else. And being able to be open with him, I explained everything. I explained about the runner and the chaser and the whole bit. And so I know that it brought him some peace. And it's not that I have secrets from him. I just don't know what I should share and what I shouldn't share, because I don't want to be hurtful to him. But this particular time, it wasn't hurtful at all. It was, it gave him peace. And he finally understood that in this capacity, in the capacity that he has me, in the capacity that he wants me, he will always have me. And even though I believe my path is to separate from him, I do believe I'll come back to him. But I do believe I need to be out on my own a little bit. Having said that, I still feel like this dynamic will exist. I will still have this family. I will still spend Christmases and go on birthday trips and all that stuff. So having told him that, I do believe brought him peace. So I just try to find my way. Again, that gut thing. Should I tell him? Should I not tell him? Because I really, here I am. I tell you guys everything. It's not that I have secrets. I just don't want to be hurtful to him. I don't fear rocking the boat. I don't fear getting kicked out of the home. He doesn't want me to leave. So I just fear hurting him. I don't want to hurt him. Let me see. Let me check my list. This time I made a list. I don't always refer to it because I don't like to stare at it. Okay. I think that's it. God, I hope so. All right. Thank you again. I'm going to review and see if I have to do this again. Look at how many wardrobe changes I have. And I started making these videos back in the beginning of December, I think. Like for this one, the pink sweater, I think that was back in December. The reading with Heather, that was back in November. So this is a long time in the makings. Okay, you guys. Thanks. Hi guys, it's me, Carrie Silver Lining Mena, and it's been a while since I've done one of my solo videos, and that's mostly because I hadn't learned enough information to share a whole video's worth. Now, unfortunately for you, I have so much information to share, so this is going to be a really long one. You might want to find a place in the middle to break for it. I'm just assuming it's going to be long. I got like, I don't know, 6 months worth of shit to share right now. But the first thing I want to start with is, well, let me tell you a little bit about what it is, a little bit. And I always like to make my personal story relevant to everybody else. And I know that many of you watching are on a similar journey of mine, which is finding self-love through your love of another. And that's, what is commonly referred to as twin flame. I call them bullshit, twin flame bullshit. And you've watched other videos that I've done debunking a lot of what that means. So even though my current evolution comes from twin flame lessons, it can be applied. Some of it can be applied across the board. So if you're doing twin flame shit, then pay attention. If you're not, take what's relevant and throw the rest away. I always appreciate the views, the love, the support. So thank you for that. And I'm just about done with this twin stuff. I mean, I am done, but I'm still, my dust is still settling and I'm still figuring it out. I really thought I was done already, but I was not. I am now. So let me start off by inserting a little video in between this little intro. I may even have like another intro because, I forget shit and have to add it at the beginning or the end. So, but I am going to pause this video right now because I have a little edited portion of a reading I recently had with Heather. And it's just a little bit interesting about who my new guide is and what he's here to teach me and how he fucked shit up and how he rectified his mistake. It wasn't so much a mistake as just, an experiment that went awry, but he got me back on track. So let me go ahead and pause this here and then continue on with the second part. All right, be right back.
HOORAY was Pierre Curie from 1895 to 1906 civil union.
Are you Pierre? And if so, why are you here for me?
That's what I felt. I'm like, Marie Curie. And then I'm like, no, the man of Marie Curie, the other half. And
Pierre.
That's what I feel.
Are you Pierre?
That's how I heard yes.
Why are you helping me? How do we know each other?
Through my life as Pierre, I'm trying to. That's interesting. That's how I felt he was. I was like, how the man, the other half of Marie.
That's funny.
Husband. And he was an observer. He observed a lot through his experiments.
He was a physicist. That's French.
He was.
Did he know our friend? No.
He was a spiritualist too. He did a lot of try to combine science and spirituality together.
So did I know you? Was I alive then? Or
yes. No? But you weren't my wife. No.
What kind?
Oh, he says yes, but we were never married.
Oh my. Oh, you're kind of cute.
We had a little love fling when I was younger. We're both younger.
Aw.
Yeah.
So why are you here now to guide me?
Because I want to teach you through observation, is what he's saying.
You're going to turn me into a damn scientist? Good luck with that.
He says, hopefully. But he said that's not the end game. He's talking about, he says that he's always been in the picture somewhat. Like he's saying the people we've had, at least for me, he's talking personal experiences. I mean, this is every spirit.
Okay.
He says the people I've had lives with, we've had more than a few and I. So I try to check on you. I get interested and curious. And I learn a lot from observation on the other side. He says I've very few times do I incarnate, and that's usually to help deliver new information through that. So my lifetime as a human was to help bring in new knowledge. But anyway, he's saying that he observed how you were learning, and he said, I didn't entirely agree with the tactic. So I came in and just offered my assistance, and I wanted to try this new way of doing it. A less harmful on your heart. He said, but then you made it harmful on your heart by overthinking. You do that a lot. And he said, he said, you tend to do that when he knew you too, during his lifetime as Pierre.
What was
So he says he's used to it.
Who was
I can't remember. I can't remember because I'm not good at hearing names. That's why I kept getting whoever the other guy is of that one chick.
The guys of that one chick. Right. Mr. Murray. Huh. Well,
maybe you won't be mentioned. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't think I would be. Well, Pierre, I don't even know what to ask now.
I wonder who he dated. He's saying not really dated like official girlfriend, but I had a fling, a young love.
Did I have an orgasm?
He said yes, quite a few.
All right, well, I'm back. And as you can see, I'm not wearing my pink fluffy sweater. I got on a hot pink t-shirt. That's because even though I did record that video, when I looked back on it, I just have like a sense of knowing when I'm to publish something or not publish something, and I really wasn't sure yet, so I sat on it. Usually when I sit on something like that, it means I am to redo it, and that goes for my writing and my videos. So after having sat on it for a while, I think that the message was legit and I didn't make a mistake in the things I said. I feel like I spent too much time explaining the story of how I got to the place that I'm at now. So I do want to tell that story again, but I want to kind of condense it because I want to focus more on what I've learned, because this is a place for me to teach, not just, blab my juicy secrets. So let me get started on that, and I want to talk about why Pierre wanted to teach me in a new way. Basically, because I wasn't learning the old way. And I've told before in my twin bullshit that I had two twins, and the reason for that is because I wasn't learning with the first. I learned a lot with him. I learned a lot with Michael. Hang on, I have to cough. But I couldn't cross that last bit into self-worth. I couldn't cross that threshold into never being second best again and never being anybody's secret. So I think the reason for that, I want to ask this in a future episode. I'm wondering if the reason that I couldn't cross that threshold is because years ago, Fairy Girl gave up a really juicy bit of information, and I was so desperate and so hurt. And I know that she wasn't supposed to, because Heine, who is Heather's higher self, Heine got pissed. She's like, I want to know who told you. So what Fairy Girl told me is that, like the twin flame mythology, the twins spend some time in separation and they continue to grow on their own, and then they come back together for what the internet calls union. And in a romantic sense, it's just like it sounds. Your union. But twin relationships aren't always romantic. There's all kinds of dynamics. But in my case, Fairy Girl went ahead and told me because I needed to have that carrot dangled in front of me in order to carry on, because it was so painful. It was so painful that even though I knew one day I would, be okay, and I wasn't necessarily depressed, I knew that I was just in so much pain. Like, say I was like a wounded soldier and my pain was so bad, I knew doctors could heal me, but I'm stuck in the trenches for who knows how long, and I want to end that pain. So I had the mindset of wanting to end the pain. So she gave me that big old juicy carrot of, he'll be yours one day, hang in there. And I wonder if that's the reason. I wonder if that's what made me stagnant. Even though the internet says it, I always believed that, Michael and I weren't typical twins. I used to call my not so twinny twin. I just didn't understand things. So hearing that information may have delayed my evolution, because even though I kind of gave him up, I knew that he was going to come back one day. So I just kept waiting for that to happen. I left him alone. I gave up the pursuit of the relationship, but I didn't give up the expectation of him coming back. So with him, there just had to be even though I was already tuned in to Twin 2, to Fairy Boy, I was still kind of not clinging to Michael, but just, I don't even know. I don't feel like I needed that extra detachment, but they arranged for me to get really pissed off at him so that I'd just leave him alone, and I did. So when I'm doing this same thing with Fairy Boy and I get to this place of being stagnant, because again, I did give him up. I really did. But I also knew that he was going to come back to me. And I think that's what messed me up. But the guides really fucked with me this time, because they gave me almost specifics. And I don't know if I kind of mentioned in other videos that I was given a date. And I was supposed to go on a trip with this Fairy Boy of mine. And I remember being pissed off, and I was all pissed off and living in a place of lack. This is when I went over to my dad's house in the summertime, and I decided to just be grateful for every fucking thing. Like, who cares if I had to go and get a shitty hotel when we didn't catch our flight? Thank God I have the money to afford a place that has a roof over our heads. I was trying to find the silver linings in everything, because as long as I stayed in a place of lack, I would, I wouldn't be able to manifest the things that I wanted. So I really tried to stay positive, and I knew I was going to go on this trip. I knew I was, but things started to look like that wasn't going to happen. And I was ready to go like the very next day. I put off all my plans. I can't go with you because I'm expecting this 20 of mine to give me a call, and I'm going to jump on a plane tomorrow, because it was getting to that point where we got to go. There was a narrow window of opportunity for this to happen. So I was really clinging to it. Again, I thought I already gave him up, so I didn't realize I was clinging. I was getting confused, and the guides would fuck with me because I was at Elisa's one time, and in my brain, I was playing e-board with Robert, and in my brain, not even out loud, I asked, am I still going to go on this trip? I didn't even ask with him, because if I was going to go to this place, I would only be going with him. So the planchette, and it was Eric, immediately went to yes. And without asking the board or Eric, it went and circled 919, letting me know that it was going to happen in September of 2019. But guess what? It didn't happen. I was let down again, and I was confused again, and I don't know what the guys were trying to do. That's what Volti's going to answer to when I talk to him soon on this show, because I want to understand, because the guys are still telling me, yeah, at the time that those answers were circled on the board, it was the truth. I don't get how that can be, because if I only got to a place of finally giving this guy up like a month ago, then how would I ever have been ready to go see him? So I don't understand these inconsistencies, how they can both be true, or if they lied to me, or if they found a loophole, or what. Shh. My dog's barking. So what happened to get me to realize that I was just chasing again was my guide saw that, oh gosh, please be quiet. My guide saw that I was still not learning, and I didn't learn with twin number 1, and I didn't learn with twin number 2. I was waiting for them both to come back, staying stagnant in that place, and it wasn't working, and I just could not take another twin. I couldn't do it. And why give me another one? If I didn't learn it in 2 times, why would I learn it in 3? I'm going on like 6 years of this learning now. I'm done with it. So this is where Pierre comes into the picture. Pierre decides to give me an experience, a not experience, but an opportunity to observe, to learn through observation. He is a scientist. He learns through observation. So that's what he wanted for me. But what he didn't realize, and this is where things went wonky, was that in my experience, I have to experience my lessons. I have to live my lessons. There's no observing. That's not even part of my awareness. So I'm thinking that I have to do this next part. And this next part, this part that was meant to be an observation, when I believed that I had to experience it, I got pissed. I got so angry at my guides for presenting me with another twin experience. But this one had a twist. This one came with an opposite. Rather than being the chaser of the fairy, I was the runner from my very own chaser. And this has been going on for a while, and I had suspected that this might be the case. So I immediately went and had a reading. I needed to know, is this guy my twin? And they said, no, he is not your twin. And I felt much relief with that, because remember, I am still in a mindset that union happens. And, you are attracted to who you're attracted to. And as much as I like this guy, and as much as he is my friend, and as good as he's been to me, I'm not attracted to him, and I'm not meant to be. That's not my well, there's nothing written in stone, so I can't say it's not my path or my evolution. But this particular person was chosen on purpose because Pierre knew that I would resist this guy. And but I didn't. I was like, and in my mind, I have to experience it. I have to. And my guides told me a long time ago that I was going to have two boyfriends at the same time. So here I am waiting and chasing the fairy, while over here I've got the chaser chasing after me. So I have these two men that I'm doing like opposite but the same things with. And this is what else fucked with me. There's a few things that fucked with me in the story. Like all things spiritual, there's a lot of retrospection and you figure things out later. So even though the story's tangly, you'll just have to piece it together the best way you can. So they wanted me to connect these two men. They wanted me to do that. And by they, I mostly mean Pierre. And so by they, I mean the guides. So who knows who all played into this stuff. And I wanted to share these two men, their names, but it's at the same time I don't want to, because this is private and personal, and not to me. I tell my business all over the place, but this is their business too, and I try to be respectful. I gotta give Michael props, because I say his name all the time. When he gave me permission to use his name, I'm sure he did not mean for it to be on my YouTube videos, but here it is anyway. So thank you, Michael, for always letting me share your name. Although he did provide me with the experience of being kept secret. He didn't want to be tagged publicly, and that's okay. I totally respect that. He had his reasons and they were legit. But my reasons for receiving that information was, there I am being second best secret again. So that's not what he meant for it to be, but my filter and my need for that experience allowed for me to feel that way. I needed it. All right, so going back to these other two men, their names had not one but two clues that connected them, and it just dropped my jaw. At first, I thought the first kind of sync was a little bit funny, but then when the second sync came around, I was like, all right, the guides are trying to tell me something. And there were more things that were similar. They were kind of doing the same healing, but in opposite ways. And I started to think that even though, I debunked that whole twins are split in half kind of thing and come here to learn off of each other, I didn't really think that, but I did wonder if that version of fairy didn't split itself in half and have opposite experiences with me as the fulcrum in the middle, because they were so opposite but so identical. Things I was doing with the runner or things that the chaser was doing with me, and my mind was fucking blown. And so this was, I think that my guides used my own material on me, because I use the word boyfriends very loosely. I have lots of boyfriends. Like, for example, Howard Hughes is one of my boyfriends. I have a lot of boyfriends. I just use that word loosely. So I think when they told me I was going to have two boyfriends at the same time, this is what they meant. They also told me, because at first I believed that, Fairy Boy was here as, going to be my boyfriend. I got many clues about him that he was going to be my next boyfriend. So they told me, though, that he wasn't going to be the first one I was to union with, that he would be the second. So here I am with these two boyfriends, and I'm believing that the guides mean that this boyfriend, the one I'm running from, the one I'm not attracted to, the one I am not interested in romantically, I'm thinking I have to, I don't know how else to say it, go through him to get to this one. And that is so unfair, because I've waited a lifetime. I have been lonely a lifetime for this kind of love and affection, and I have been on a 6-year journey to heal from the damage done to me my whole lifetime, so I could be ready for this beautiful moment. And the guides are telling me, well, first you have to go through somebody that you don't love. And I was so mad. I was so mad. How dare they do this to me? How dare they? I just decided to give up altogether. I wasn't going to do that shit. Fuck off, love. I'm not interested. If this is the game you're going to play with me, then fuck that. Because Fairy Girl said to me one time that, some of the men you will pursue and some of the men will pursue you. So I'm thinking, is this how it's going to be? Am I going to be doing a push, pull, run, chase, and meet in the middle every time? I was going fucking crazy. Because it was so ingrained in me that I had to experience my lessons rather than learn through observation. And my friends were very supportive of me. They said, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You don't have to do anything. You create your life. So I'm thinking, that's not true though, because I didn't choose Michael. And when I just chose to I didn't choose Michael, but when I quit learning through him, they went ahead and brought me another one. So I'm thinking, if I choose to not learn through this chaser, then they'll just bring me another one. So I felt like I could not escape my fate, and I went nuts. So there's another reason why I fell into this belief system too. And wait till you hear this one. It's nuts. So a long, long time ago, I had a reading with Fairy Girl. Hermione trance channeled her, and maybe you remember from the pineapple story when I mentioned that Fairy Girl shared with me a sweet and slutty past life story that I had with Fairy Boy. And she said that it would just be sort of fun and healing for, me to hear this. And basically what it was that in this lifetime, a few hundred years ago, I don't know when, Fairy Boy, she goes, imagine him with the face he has now, because he has a nice face, and he does. He's so really pretty. So, and I thought she just wanted me to, as I'm listening to her story, to just kind of put into perspective that that's him and this is me. And we kind of had a flip of roles. I'm thinking that's what she wanted me to see. She was trying to show me in her own way the observation of how it's the opposite. Because in that life, he was chasing me. It wasn't a twin relationship, but he was very enamored with me, in love with me, and I didn't care about him. I had lots of boyfriends. I probably use that term loosely over there. And I just slept with all of them. I was kind of slutty. And I guess I had a little dry patch in my life and was a little bit lonely. And so I let this boy take a shot at me. And so we went into this dirty old smelly barn and I fucked him. And afterwards, he was so sweet to me, lying down there in that dirty old hay, that I fell in love with him. And we didn't stay together, but we did spend some time together. And apparently it was real sweet. So I'm not really sure what she wanted me to learn from that. Maybe she was giving me a hint that we really are going to flip roles this time around. But she told me some other things about that life and the interaction between us. And that sounded very much like what's going on with the chaser. The same thing with the chaser over here from another life was going on right now with the chaser over here. Very similar. So I thought, okay, she just wasn't trying to tell me a sweet story. She's trying to tell me that these two men are connected. And so in my mind, I'm thinking that just like in this life, if I spend some time with him, if I roll around in the dirty hay with him, I will then fall in love with him. So in my mind, I'm okay, I gotta do this. I gotta suck it up and do it, because then I'll fall in love. I'm trying to trust my guides, but when it came down to it, I gotta be true to my heart. I finally learned to listen to my heart, and it was extreme, but I knew that wasn't the place for me. And I had another reading because I was so confused about the mixed messages all over the place. I went insane. So here comes Pierre, and you saw that little bit. He wanted to teach me through observation because he wanted to give my poor heart a break. But what I ended up doing instead was hurting myself so much. I mean, believe me, it beats having another twin, because that shit takes a couple of years. And I only had to suffer through this one for about 5 weeks, but suffer I did. When I was in Virginia with my friend Sarah, I got the big bathroom, because she's like, you take the master suite because you did all the work for, researching and booking and doing all that stuff. So I sat in this big, giant 3-person jacuzzi tub, and I had to fill half of it with scalding hot water and the other half with snot and tears, because I was under such distress. I had never felt so betrayed by my guides. I was so mad. I just, my first time is supposed to be special. I know there's no supposed to, and I know there's no we deserve, whatever. But my first time is going to be special. It just is. And it's going to be with somebody that I love. And if you watch that New Year's resolution video I did, I was, talking to the guides about how, or just Heather, I said to me that sex and love are synonymous. And they said, no, what you crave is intimacy. And they're absolutely right. I know what they mean, and I can absolutely have love without sex. I enjoy my long distance relationships. That's what it mostly was with Fairy Boy. I've only seen him a couple times. He lives far away. So we had, this online friendship, and, I don't really know what it was to him, but to me, it felt more than a friendship. So to me, it was a romantic relationship, and that did feel intimate. So I can have love without sex, but I'm not having sex without love. So I just could not go in the place that I thought my guides were trying to go to. So when Pierre came to tell me that he had made a mistake, that guides don't know everything, and he did not expect me to not learn or understand that this was a lesson in observation, he just came clean and he told me everything. I said, so what are you going to do to rectify your mistake? He goes, well, I'm doing it right now. I came here to talk to you. I'm telling you, this is it right now. So he just laid it out there for me. And I did see, even before, Pierre told me, I saw what it looked like with the boy that I was chasing, about how he didn't give two shits about me. And I don't mean to say he doesn't care about me. I know he wishes me well, but he's in his own world. I am not his focus. So, I'm not on his radar at all. And I'm giving so much energy to him, waiting for him to come back to me. Whereas this one over here is showering me with love and affection and gifts. And, well, not affection, because I didn't see him either, but attention, love and attention. And he'd send me, treasures in the mail. He was so fun. He was so sweet. And so I saw the difference of what it looks like when the way you're treated by somebody that loves you. So I got it. I got that lesson. But what really hit home for me, what got me to realize the futility of me chasing after the other one, was that, again, remember, I believed that with a twin, once the two, work their shit out, they come together. Well, Pierre let me know that it was never, and there's no such thing. Pierre wanted to make sure that there's no such thing as meant to. You're never meant to do this. That kind of implies, like, a true path. That kind of implies that something is set in stone. So a better way to phrase it was, the intention was for me to never connect in a romantic way with Chaser. It was strictly for it to be an observation. So when I learned that that was never in his cards, he was never going to catch his carrot. He was never going to have the union with the girl that's, triggering him into growing and evolving. That made me realize that I don't have that same guarantee over here like I once thought I did either. Not only that, they let me know that our trajectory had deviated. They gave me some reasons why, and that really broke my heart, because I love him. That's my carrot. The carrot that they've dangled in front of me for so long, they pretty much threw away. And they told me that it wasn't out of the question. In fact, Fairy Girl told me, if you remember from that same pineapple story, she said, don't give up. Whether you see him or whether you don't see him, you keep on manifesting that shit. If you give up on it, it absolutely won't happen. So this is the point, I'm not really sure what to believe. Do I believe Eric and Pierre when they say he's made a left turn, move on? Or do I believe Fairy Girl? This is, don't give up, because if you do, it will be done. So since I don't know which one to believe, I don't believe either of them. I'm trying to just go with whatever I'm feeling. And I honestly do not know what is in my path with him. And I know I think that was the point. But I do know that I do still love him. I didn't realize how much. I didn't realize, one of the reasons I wanted to give this video another go was because I was so emotional about it before. But I see how emotional I am now once I realized I needed to detach, and I started to take an active role in that detachment. That's when I realized the level of attachment. I had no idea. And these, this is another question I want to ask Volty. As I said, that the level of pain and the level of purging and releasing equaled, a lifetime, several men rolled up into one person. But that love isn't from all those assholes. I believe that love is from me tapping into other experiences, other good romantic love lives I've had with these other men. Or maybe I'm just tapping into the relationship I have with them on the flip side. I don't know. But both the hurts that comes with twin shit, they are so strong and intense, and so is the love. It's unlike anything you will ever experience. It is not normal. It's just not. It's beyond anything. And you just don't know unless you experience it. It's crazy. It's like a drug. It is like a fucking drug. When it's good, you're just like on fucking heroin, and when it's not, I don't even know what heroin feels like. I'm just assuming it's fabulous, and I'm assuming also that the withdrawal from it is equally painful, and it feels like I'm ripping him out of me in bits and pieces, sticking, and I gotta like scrape them off with something sharp. I did this with Michael, and it hurts so bad, but I know how surrender works. And he will never, ever, ever, ever come back until I quit wanting him to, until I quit expecting him to, until I quit waiting for him to. I guess I can keep wanting him to, although when you stay in a want vibration, you're going to keep on wanting. So I don't know if they're lying to me. I don't know if we're still on track. I don't know. So I'm going to let that one evolve on its own. I did, however, get confirmation today from Volty, and I'm choosing to believe this one, that we will be friends again. Because I believe that now that I have tapped in to that place where I know them from somewhere else, I'm going to love them forever in one way or another. And it would just be so sad if I didn't ever get to, be friends or anything with them again. That would hurt. It would be like them dying, but not really dying, and they're right here. I guess the dead people are too, but you know what I mean. So that's another thing I learned. One thing I learned, there's a few things I learned. Maybe it will trigger the next bout of shit I want to throw at you. One of the things I learned is that we don't have to experience everything to learn from it. I really don't know how, if people are in my shoes, how they're supposed to differentiate between a lesson that's provided through experience versus a lesson that's provided through observation. Pierre tells me that I'm going to be getting both. So maybe it's just a matter of, maybe it's a lesson, a practice in following my gut. If I know that I don't want to go there, I can just watch it from afar. I guess I've had a couple of those recently too. I choose to not get involved, but I'm watching from the sidelines. So that's one thing. Another thing is that how hard it is for us to reprogram our brains to see another perspective. And I don't really mean like a point of view necessarily on this case. I guess the point of view I mean is this whole observation versus experience. I couldn't get myself out of that place. We're so stuck in our ways that it doesn't even occur to us that there's an alternative. That's one of the things. And the other thing too is, again, I got to go back with that surrender. I've taught this when I was back in Maui. I talked about how great-great-grandpa Cayetano told me that, when you find peace, the answers will come to you. And the peace that he was referring to is the surrender. I'm no longer anxious or, waiting on this outcome of connecting with this twin. I might not, but I'm not clinging to that. I have surrendered that. And I don't really have peace with that yet, but I will. In a way I do, because I get it, like I said with I don't know if I said it in this video because this is like my third shot trying, but with him, I had to get so angry at him that I had to end up just cutting him off with a hate letter. And I don't know how much that affected him or not. Maybe he's like, good riddance, you crazy girl. But I was to the point of just hate and rage. I was done. But because I had this experience already, I understand surrender. I knew what was happening. I finally recognized that I was doing this whole twin thing exactly again. It wasn't a method for me to heal from the first one. They were both identical experiences to heal from my girlhood and parts of my adulthood. I didn't have many relationships because I'm married and I gave up on all that. But there were instances that the universe brought to me that can be construed as being rejected. Not actual relationships or anything, but still experiences. So when I say my whole life, I can literally say my whole life because not many of them came to any kind of fruition anyway. So that's another one is just again reinforcing that surrender and I didn't have to get to a place of hating Fairy Boy because logic and experience and knowledge, I had those under my belt. I knew the futility of clinging and I just had to make a conscious decision to stop. I give up. So yay for me for seeing it and having the strength to just do it. It's kind of like when I decided to lose weight. I just decided I was done. I was done being disgusted with myself and I'm moving on. I'm done chasing a boy that's never going to come back to me because that's the way it works. As long as you chase, they will never come back. I've stopped chasing, so at least I've given myself a chance, but I'm not going to go back to clinging to that. I did that already. I've already given him up many times, but apparently I just gave him up in layers. Well, I've given him up entirely now. So is that my story? I think so. Well, I'm going to review this because I know I've forgotten stuff. I always do. I'll either stick it at the end or put it at the beginning. I have a lot of busy stuff coming up. I have a podcast I'm doing in a couple days, and then I have my kids' birthday party. Their birthday was last month, but December's so crazy. We kind of postponed it till January to give all the kids a thrill after their first week back at school. And then I have my surgery. I'm supposed to do my Volti and silver linings with Michelle. I don't know. I'm going nuts. All right, you guys, I'm just venting a little bit. Let me review this video, see how I feel about it, and then publish it. Thank you again for listening to me as I, continue on my journey. And I hope I just listed all the things I learned. All right, you guys. Thank you. Bye. Hi guys, I got one last segment for you. And that's because the last 4 or 5 days, I have just learned and downloaded so much. I've healed so much. I just went through this, sometimes things in spirituality take forever and other times they happen in an instant. Well, this wasn't quite an instant, but it's pretty quick. I just feel like I've just crossed some hurdles and I've moved on a little bit. And I want to talk about some of the things that I have learned. So let me start off with that podcast that I mentioned. I went ahead and I did that podcast and I met these 3 women, and 2 of the 3 happened to be in twin flame relationships as well. And I've never met anybody else except for, recently my current chaser who is doing an identical story that I am. It's the same thing. So he's really the only one that I've met that I can identify with. The stuff I've read on the internet just never rang true. And it sounded like they made it so romantic. I just quit reading all that stuff because I felt like these people were not far enough in their journey to be realistic about it. They still had stars in their eyes or something. I don't know. But these two of the women that I met on this podcast are both in twin flame relationships, and one of them, like me, is in separation, and they had never heard of having two twin flames. Well, I hadn't heard of that either, so I was kind of a novel, until I did it. I was a novelty to them as well. But one of them, she lived with her guy, and her relationship consisted of, whatever experiences she needed. She had to deal with her own addictions. So hers, it didn't necessarily center around that, but that was a part of it. I never had to do with that part. And I can just imagine how something like that could play into it, a completely different experience than I had. And then the other girl I met that in that podcast, she is the runner, and she is also in a relationship, but she is a runner. So she was talking about how her and her partner have an understanding to where when she gets to feeling that way and she wants to run, he's like, you do your thing, you do your processing, and just let me know so I know where your head's at. I'll give you the space you need, but let me know because I'm in this, in this thing too. So I don't think she's in separation right now. I just, it was kind of a fast interview, and I did most of the talking because, I like to make it all about me. But that really taught me that my experience was custom for me. And it dates back to the very beginning when I was like 11 or 12 years old and fell in love with the boy at the skating rink. And I pined away for this guy for years, 3, 4, 5 years. And I never even kissed this boy, but that's just the history I had. And I had the same exact experience with him that I did with Twin 2, and exact experience. So interesting the way that happened. And, many of them were similar, but that one was almost identical. And I wanted to touch too on the way I say that, I don't hold these experiences I had with these twins against them at all. I 100% own it. It was my script, my story. I asked them to play these roles for me. And they were mascots. They were representatives for all these assholes that mistreated me in my past. But I also understand that these assholes that mistreated me in my past are also, souls that I asked to provide this experience for me. So I don't even mean to say that they are assholes. They were just playing that role for me too. And in fact, I'm still friends with that one from 11 years old. We're friends, and I'm seeing, like, I'm connecting dots of other experiences that we are having together through mutual friends that have nothing to do with our childhood, our tweenhood, whatever. So I just know that he's part of my bigger picture, part of my soul group, and I'm a little bit interested to explore that a little bit. Let me continue on, because another thing that I learned besides another thing, remember how weepy I was in that other video? I mean, I was talking about scraping the twin off, and I really was in a lot of pain. And one night it was so unbearable for me. It was very reminiscent of what I experienced with Michael. I hadn't had that kind of pain in a long time, and it was my norm for a while. I was constantly just hurting like that, and I didn't want to have this kind of pain. I knew that I was, I knew that it was a necessary thing I had to go through, but it was so painful that one night I was lying in bed, and usually my go-to helpers are either Volti or Eric or Heather's higher self, Heine. And I'll call on them to kind of give me some love. But this time I was in too much pain, and I shot straight to the top, and I asked God to please, I screamed at God inside my brain to please pour lotion on my heart. And I know the reason I asked for lotion was because I've mentioned many times the way I release through my hands. And when I go through these things, they become like bloody raw hamburger, and they hurt so bad. So I know that, in my mind, I'm thinking that my heart is bloody and raw, and to come moisturize it, soothe it with lotion, please God. And sure enough, it actually worked. It was about a half an hour later. And while I was still very sad and, just, kind of grieving and in mourning for this loss of this relationship I thought I was going to have, this magic I thought was coming my way, I didn't feel that burn anymore, that pain. It's like a physical pain. And I imagined this pain to be the actual healing. I believe it's the actual healing. And I imagined that like a soldering iron was burning that rawness and creating a seal. And then after that burn happened, I still have to heal from that wound. You know, I may be closed up, but I still have the patch that needs to heal. So that's what I feel like I'm going through right now. That's what I feel like when I say my dust is still settling. That stuff's kind of fallen into place. And I really wanted to take an active role in my healing. Besides that happening, I know that I have to forgive. And I don't have to forgive the 220s for doing what I asked them to do. I don't have to forgive those, you know, boys and men from my past. I have to forgive myself because I'm the one that chose to create that pain and suffering for myself. And even though I know it was for a reason, I know it was for growth and evolution, it hurt. And I did that to myself. I hurt myself so bad. So I spent some time for, you know, apologizing to myself. And that wasn't enough. I also needed to apologize to those that hurt in this dynamic. And I don't think I'm not sure if I hurt Fairy Boy. It didn't get to the point that it did with Michael, but in an attempt to have some closure, I sent him a video message, very much saying the same story that I'm saying here, but without filters, in a more personal version of it. And it did, I don't know if he watched it. I don't know if he will watch it, but he did respond. And what he did was, he sent me his own video back, just a 15-second clip, and gave me a little picture of what's going on in his life. And it was so completely foreign to what's going on with mine. It's like, and I know he's on a path to healing too. So I know there's inner work going on, but you know, in my world, my job, my work is my kids and myself. He's in a completely different place. So I get that he just we can't even relate to each other in right now, but hopefully that will change. But it really, you know, kind of hit home because the other day, you know, when I say I work on myself, not only do I mean these shows and my events and, you know, all the things I do for Silver Linings and Stardust and all that, but, you know, my spiritual work. And I walk around and I just spin and I cry. I was getting high in the garage, just feeling and releasing. And I have the door open, the sun's shining. I got my dog with me and music playing and I'm crying. And my husband comes out and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm working." He goes, "Okay." He goes back in and he does his own work, which is paying bills or whatever it is. But my work is me. So I just got kind of a kick out of the way our lives are so different and we just can't relate to one another. So, you know, like I said, I don't really feel like I need to have forgiveness for that experience because all along the way, instead of being like hurt and angry, it was more like resignation and defeat. Like, I get it. Now I get what they were trying to tell me the last time. So it was more like pieces falling into place. But I also took time to write to Michael. I was like, you know what? I don't want to wait. You know, I know that we're going to cross paths later on, and I wasn't necessarily ready to connect with him. Become, rekindle our friendship, whatever our relationship's going to be. I don't think it's quite time for that yet. But as I was forgiving myself, I realized I also have to, apologizing to myself, I realized I also had to apologize to him because I was a pest. I wouldn't leave him alone, and it wasn't peaceful with him. I raged at him, and I got so mad, and I was angry at him for many of the times. But a lot of times he didn't even know it. It was all within me and my fabrications. But he did get a big chunk of me. I would, bombard him, and I just wouldn't ever leave him alone. So I wanted to apologize for that, and I did. And he responded. It was very much in his style, but I can see a little bit growth in him too. And then I just basically said, this may not be the time to reconnect, but it was the time for me to come and say what I've said. So when our stars realign, we'll know it and we'll pick back up in the way that we're meant to. And I look forward to that because, my experience with him, I was in such a dark place. So I don't have a lot of good memories with him, and I want that to change because, You know, I've said many times that on the flip side, he is my number one. He is my favorite soul, my most trusted soul that, you know, I give my heart to in these incarnations to learn and grow with. So it seems a shame that I have to have these, you know, less than shiny feelings about him. And so I'd like to recreate a relationship. You know, going back to like with Sarah and her doing grief differently, I want to do my relationship with him differently and recreate a relationship with him that feels good. So I have that in my future, and I believe that I have that, you know, in my future with Fairy Boy too. I just got to be patient, you know, it'll happen. All right, you guys, let me see. Let me do a quick check of my list before I sign off. I don't want to do this again. Okay, let me see here. That's it. I think I got it all. All right, you guys, thank you one last time. This is the last one, I promise. Thanks, bye.